Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And then boom, we're here right now with you. And you, the business owner, you also the one that's trying to figure out how do you make it work? Where do you go? What do you do? What group do you join? How do you get involved? All the rest of that stuff. Well, as you know, we've been speaking to many of the people this week from the Melville Chamber of Commerce. Why? Well, for a number of good reasons. One, they're a great organization based here on Long Island. They're serving the Melville and Melville area. There's plenty of businesses that are involved there. There's plenty of different groups within the Melville Chamber of Commerce also. And that's an important factor too. Because when you look at your own chamber, when you look at your own organization, community group, whatever it might be, flat out networking group, are they the right ones for you? You one need to speak to that organization, the leadership within that organization, and find out what that's all about. Will they look for you to join? Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, like the rest of us, right? We have a feeling inside of us that we can help so many people in so many different areas. So I'm sure you're going to get that positive comment coming from them. And it's great when they do that. That should be there. They should be enthusiastic about it. But you also need to look another level deeper. Is like, what does that group stand for? Where are they at with it? Well, the Melville Chamber, as you've gotten to know over here, it's very, very focused on the helping people grow, helping people understand what networking is truly all about, helping people understand what other organizations are available within their realm, within their industry that are supportive of, and looking for that assistance along the way, not just business, but how to go about that whole aspect of it. And that's absolutely why I'm really, really excited about today's guest, because she's a perfect example of that. She is the co-chair of one of the groups too, and you'll see how that factors into it. And her business is symbiotic when it comes to that also. And her attitude is just absolutely terrific in and of itself within that whole factor. So who are we speaking to today? We are speaking to the co-chair of the Melville Chamber Women and a strategic advisor to the Chamber Board of Directors professionally. She is the chief of staff and business strategist with her firm, Ganz Strategic Solutions. Susan Ganz, gives back time and focus to busy executives and takes seemingly impossible business initiatives and makes them happen. Love those actionable things that come out of these things. She is the WD-40 for businesses, helping them get unstuck and clearing the path for success. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to Susan Ganz. And Susan,
And here I am.
I was hoping to get through that without laughing when it came to the WD-40 thing. So, so let me just flat out say, oh, that is so unique. We're talking about elevator pitches while we're at this. Like, oh, it's got to be memorable. That works. It's definitely memorable. And thanks for joining us here this morning.
You're welcome. It is such a delight to be with you today.
It was good. And like everything that and there were plenty of chambers and everybody's got a different focus with it, including all those business groups. I mean, some of them just straight out there focused totally on referrals. Others a little bit more in the educational aspect of it. A few of them blend everything together. I've also been involved with some groups that turn out to be social affairs, which is all well and good, depending upon what it is you're looking to do and how you're looking to approach that whole thing. But the Melville Chamber, everybody I speak to over there, whether it be formally like this or informal conversations, it's like, oh yeah, I got involved in this one group and they really helped me do whatever it was. Your background is just totally that. So I could see why this is the chamber that you've gotten involved with.
Absolutely. And thanks again for having me. Uh, the chamber for me is around relationships and stands for reaching out and has a culture of being very warm and welcoming and inclusive. And so that's some of the reasons why I get involved in the chamber and stay with the chamber.
Right. And then, as I mentioned too, your business is very symbiotic with it. So why don't we start there? Let's go back to you as as the chief of staff, by the way. Like that one too, the chief of staff. Just explain your business a little bit and then how you've kind of worked that into with the chamber, because that's an important thing too. We all have these different skills, and if we could apply them while we're helping other people in an organization, it really is. It's a win all around.
Absolutely. So my approach with my business is about helping the C-suite with their key strategic initiatives, which usually revolve around growth and change. So a business owner might say, I want to get to the next level in my growth. I don't know how. Or they might say, I'm stuck or feel stagnant in some way around my business, not sure what's getting in the way. So it's helpful to have another set of eyes looking at their business and helping them to figure it out. Or with the pandemic, it's about how do I reposition my business? How do I think about getting more recurring revenue streams, for example? And I like to approach it from understanding what's the mission, vision, and values for that particular company, because that becomes the foundation for its success. And then from there, we work on strategy. And after we define what the strategy is, then it's about what are the tactics or the actions that are going to be taken to achieve that strategy in alignment with the vision and mission and core values. And what I find is some people might have a vague notion of what their goals are, and then they want to jump right to tactics and do something like, let me update a website, for example. And then they wonder after they do that exercise, perhaps, like why it might not be sticking or why it might not be attracting the clients that they want, is because they didn't do the work up front to understand what are they all about and what are they communicating.
Right. I will raise my hand and say, "Yep, I'm kind of guilty about that one too." Putting the cart before the horse kind of a thing. It's like, oh, because it's fun to build a website, right? You throw
Oh,
all this stuff over
absolutely.
there, but if the message is not consistent with what you're actually trying to accomplish, it without a doubt doesn't work. But so that skill set though that you bring from the corporate world into the chamber is going to be definitely applicable, with somebody joining, again, going back to like which chamber, to belong to, and that kind of thing. It's like, well, why are you here? Which is always a golden question. So if somebody joins as a newer member or they wind up in the women group, uh, is that part of the initial conversations? What are you trying to accomplish? And then you have that other set of eyes looking in on that person, not, in a manner where they get clearer as to what the purpose is of what they're looking for out of the group.
Yes, absolutely. So let me tell you a little bit about the team at the chamber and then the approach that we took to actually revamp the women's group a couple of years ago. So the wonderful Tad Macaluso, who is the executive director of the Melville Chamber, sets the tone of really having an inviting chamber and wanting to get to know people and wanting to get to know what their business is and what it is they want to achieve. And that's of course echoed by the chair of the board, who is Mark Catapano. And um, we all have this, whoever's involved in the leadership of the chamber, have this sort of ethos around being welcoming and wanting to support people. And we carried that when we were looking into revamping the women's group. I have an amazing co-chair. Her name is Irene Litzis. She's an awesome banking executive. And together we recrafted the mission and the values of the group to be very clear about what it is we're all about. Like, why should somebody want to be part of the women's group? What is it that we do? So our mission is about sharing our expertise and opening the doors and providing access to chamber resources and to members. And we have 5 core values that come out of that, and that's collaboration, connection, education, growth, and visibility. So that when we do events, those they're rooted in these core values and relate back to our mission.
Right, that's really terrific, actually, because I don't think I've run across that before. So it's really a matter of how do you use the, it's a part of it at least, is how do you actually use the organization, to your benefit, as opposed to, just working within that group. Because that, that's a key factor too, because there's so many aspects within, and this holds true with the Melville Chamber, and I'm sure with many other chambers too, because there's a different there's different objectives within there, but how best to utilize it. So it almost sounds like that's a perfect group for somebody who's just new and doesn't, like, how to navigate through. Do I sponsor an event? Do I not sponsor an event? Do I volunteer an event or not? Look to become the speaker at these things. These are all questions that must come up on an ongoing basis. Otherwise, they're just along for the ride. So you really, that engagement process is really there, making the doors open a little bit easy with that WD-40.
Yes, there you go. It's clearing the path. It's really about understanding what is it that somebody wants to achieve, whether it's joining a team or people ask me, should I get an MBA? And it's all about, well, what is it that you want at the end of the day? Like what's your vision, and working backwards from there to say, okay, once I know what I want personally, what are my values and things that I want to achieve, does this particular chamber, for example, meet what I want, and how can I navigate it? And this our particular chamber is very good at understanding, what the goals of people are and highlighting them through speaking opportunities, um, highlighting them in meetings. We've just started in our meetings that are held for the women's group. We've been spotlighting members to say, why did they personally join the chamber? And so to inspire other people to see something in their story, because stories are the things that attract people and that people can relate to.
I'd have to agree with that 100%. Stories are everything. Stories of success, stories of getting through different challenges and things like
Yes.
that. It's what people gravitate toward. Not the sales pitch stuff. It's a matter of like, oh, I am a real person. This is really what I went through. This is how I got through the other side of whatever that challenge is. And in this case over here, it's like, how do I really navigate through the process of a chamber, which is a large chamber, and you can get lost, in so many of these organizations, and that's not the goal, I'm sure, for businesses to join. I mean, sometimes maybe it is just the PR side of it. Hey, I'm a member of, it's nice to know that, on paper at least, you're supporting the local community or supporting a Long Island based organization. But many businesses are not looking to do that, looking to use their time efficiently and strategically, as it goes through. So you work also at like a higher level, guiding or working with the board members from a strategic point of view. So is that also, like, making sure everybody's got a clear message as to the mission statement, we'll say, of these different committees? Because it's great the way you did that.
Yeah, so as a strategic advisor to the board, I I listen. So I do a little bit of a listening toward is to hear what's going on with the chamber more broadly, and also see opportunities of where to focus, and strategically, where do we want to be, and to position us to continue to be successful going forward.
Right. And I found it interesting, the decision about the digital versus the in-person meetings and the mixture with that. Forget about last year. I mean, last year was just, an aside. It was digital 100%, across the board. But even the trade show about making that decision not to do a digital one, where that face-to-face is such an important factor, within the Melville Chamber, to go with that and then to work toward, and we will get back to, of course, to doing the face-to-face meetings, but not to veer off course. So you stay very true in the aspect of everything, while continuing to grow the different these other meetings, the different committee meetings, because it's I said this before, when I had somebody else on there too, but the fact that the frequency of these meetings more so, but the one-on-ones, have you incorporated that into the meetings or outside of the meetings?
Absolutely. So if you look at the human needs of folks, particularly when the pandemic first hit, there are two human needs that were sort of leading the way, just borrowing terminology from Tony Robbins. And that was the need for certainty and the need for connection. And the chamber fulfilled a very important need with that of connection during the pandemic. And actually, the women's group led the charge in really putting on the initial, getting the ball rolling with virtual events. And we started with, how do you navigate through this pandemic? How do you homeschool? How do you work? How do you incorporate self-care when everybody's under one roof and you're trying to have your own space and you're limited in where you can go, especially when the weather isn't cooperating? And we had things around, what does the future of travel look like? And then we did fun things. We did our own fun in the tropics, and went to different locations locally and had people share about different drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, that they can make and celebrate together and have some fun. And we've done breakout rooms within our meetings so people can have opportunities to connect. And then post the meeting, we send out the registration list so again people can connect. So really fostering this collaboration and connection. We'd like our events to have some educational components to them, and then by educating you're growing, and again it's giving visibility because our speakers are chamber members.
Yeah. Why does it not surprise me that your group is leading the forefront on that? on that, on that whole thing? Yeah. And that was also right. That, to take a look at the needs that are out there. The certainty in the certainty side of things was, especially last year, was like a who knows, definitely a who knows kind of thing. But the connection was it. And this is, I don't know. This is change, being able to do these Zoom calls, but besides this, but the regular Zoom calls, like all of a sudden it became less impersonal on one side, but then it became more personal on the other side of it, because now all of a sudden, hey, I'm letting you into my house, as opposed to meeting in the boardroom someplace or one of the many fantastic restaurants that are
Yeah.
part of the Melville Chamber of Commerce. We'll put the plug in, on that
Yes.
one. I am looking forward to Restaurant Row again. Perhaps,
Yes.
they will definitely at the next trade show meeting, when trade show event, whatever.
Yes.
Hopefully that'll be, sometime soon, as that comes up. But so it's definitely interesting, how that connection part of it, goes.
Yes. And, we have a committee. So, again, back to teamwork and collaboration, we have a very active committee. We meet weekly now. Pre pandemic, we were meeting once a month in preparation for events. Now we meet weekly. And again, that provides some certainty in addition to the connection. And at one point during the pandemic, we were doing programming once every 2 weeks, which was very intense for a women's group to have 2 events per month. And we've since scaled back to one event per month, but we responded to what were people needing right then and there. And it was this supportive atmosphere that we're all going through this um, together, perhaps from different vantage points. Um, but this challenge was a common challenge that we needed support in navigating.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, because there's so many aspects of everything that was going on. I found that, with a few, I didn't do it formally. I mean, kudos to you and the whole group over there for doing it more on a formal basis. But yeah, I had, a couple of friends of mine, we kind of collaborated, I guess. I don't know, but we spoke a little bit more about like the day-to-day kind of thing. It's like, how do you, well, part of it is like, how do you separate work from home? That's a challenge if we're working, and we're lucky enough to be able to work from home, also, but that becomes something. Great point you made there. We can throw that word mental health into the whole thing, but how do you find time for you? That's an important factor. And you as a business owner, as chief of staff, with your organization. I won't say business owner, I'll say chief of staff over here.
Well, I am a business owner and I act as an outsourced chief of staff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and but yeah, so as a business owner, it's like, it's that separation from work and home has always been a tough thing. It's to go and do. And I think a lot of us now are realizing how difficult that may be, which is another topic of conversation, adding to the stress level that comes with it.
Yes, and self-care is so important. It's not, to feel guilty about to take care of yourself. It's really about being present for all the people in your lives, your family, your colleagues, your clients, your community, your friends. When you're taking care of yourself, you can be fully present. When you don't do that, then your health, your physical health, your mental health um, gets impacted and can have a negative impact on your business or how you even show up to work. So it's very important. And it still remains very important. So in fact, on May 18th at 8:30, our women's group is having a virtual program on managing stress in a world of chaos.
Oh, there we go. How's that for a segue? Nice one on that one. But yeah, no, you got to keep that enthusiasm level going. All of these things factor into that enthusiasm level. Showing up in the moment, showing up excited to be on a Zoom call or whatever digital call, in those kinds of things. Because you're sitting there like, oh, nobody cares. Yeah, right? The enthusiasm has to be there. So yeah, so you have the event that's coming up. Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that, and whether or not the guy side of things. We're invited to these things or no?
Yes,
Oh, we are.
absolutely.
There we go.
I meant to say, and this is again along the lines of the inclusivity of the chambers, all are welcome. So while it might be hosted or sponsored by the women's group, and by the way, women stands for Women of Melville Empowerment Network, just for inquiring minds. Um, and in this particular panel, we have a doctor, Dr. Evelyn Marienberg, who's going to talk to us about the sort of physiological impacts of stress. She has a whole personal story that she's going to share too, um, and to be mindful of it, why it's important that we pay attention to it. And then we're going to have Bill Saltz of New York Stress Solutions, who's going to talk about and do a demonstration of a technique called havening, and he works to reduce stress of people who have gone through trauma, grief, other things, and just in general. So he's going to give us a way to address it, so we're not going to leave people hanging. And then finally, we're going to have Bettina Yanez, who is a therapist, and what Bettina does is she's going to go through a quick exercise to get us moving and be interactive. So we like to have interactivity. In this particular session, we won't have time for a breakout session, but we're going to give people techniques and interaction. And we find that too, the chat box in our events is very active. So we encourage people to share their contact information, even though they'll get it afterwards. We encourage them to make comments, to ask questions. And we've seen kind of live time people making connections in our meetings for them to follow up. You'll hear, okay, I'm going to follow up with you one-on-one afterwards. And that really makes us so happy that we have this opportunity to bring people together to work with one another, do business with one another, because that's all about the broader chamber mission.
Yeah, that's great. Whenever you're giving a presentation, it's wonderful, or holding a meeting. It's wonderful to see that the chat field, active and people interacting with each other. It just shows you're getting the right people together for the right reason, and people are following up, which is the same thing that would happen. Those little sidebar conversations. You and I go to a meeting. We do the chit chat conversation. As leaving. You know, to discuss that or getting together or whatever it is, that's super important. That's really terrific. I'll put a plug in there for Mr. Salts. He's
Mhm.
attended a few of our business meetings. I'm also a co-facilitator for a support group for chronic illness. Bill has been there twice,
Great.
backed by popular demand. On that one, very interactive, really terrific, immediate, and I'm sure there's other speakers, also. So it's great stuff. It really is terrific to see that kind of a thing, take place, because we're all dealing with different things differently and the rest of it, but we all have different levels of stress. And then the question is, what do you do with that?
Exactly.
What
And
do
we
you do with
wanted to
that?
give people tools and techniques, and also people that they can reach out um, to manage their stress.
Right. And turn it into that golden thing called an opportunity. And so many
There you
people
go.
have, right? I'm sure you run across that quite frequently, in the business world, and over here too, because, those that work through whatever it is, all of a sudden that's their business, and that's the thing they focus on. It can relate to people in such a wonderful way. So it really is, that's a terrific inside skill set, to bring to the table.
Absolutely. It's all about resilience. We've been knocked down in many ways, in the pandemic and other things that we might have faced in life, and most of us have gotten up and have gone through to the other side, made it to the other side. And so I think what's important in the pandemic is to know that you're not alone, that there are community resources in our chamber and other chambers, um, and that not to be afraid to reach out. I think that's one of the things, particularly I find with business owners sometimes, is it gets lonely at the top, and sometimes they're afraid to be vulnerable and to say I need help, and so to make it an inviting atmosphere to say, you're not alone, and you're going through some of the similar issues as other business owners and other professionals, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to make it hard for yourself. Just reach out and provide a forum, and that's why we're so grateful for you, Brian, for shining a light on all the resources that there are out in the community in addition to the Melville Chamber.
I'm really glad to do it, but I am that person that you're just kind of describing also, so now I was given the opportunity to work from home. That was good. But then also it was a matter of, and I started this thing at the beginning of the pandemic, so a year and a quarter, as it stands right now, is like, but what is it? What is COVID? How do you deal with COVID? How do you deal with different people? What is the story with the mask, not mask, the vaccine, all the rest of that stuff? And where do you go for information? I had that question, so I assume that I'm not that far out on a limb with the thought process. I probably wasn't the only person in the world asking about it. And then I found it fascinating for these brick and mortar businesses, like, what are they doing with it? And then some people have taken that challenge and really turned it into a huge opportunity to show off their true integrity about what it was. And I can tell you one quick story. Yeah, definitely a quick story.
Sure.
It was a pizza place. And I keep using the pizza place with social media and all the rest of that stuff as the example. But what this guy did is that one of his family members came down with COVID. So we brought in somebody into the restaurant to completely clean the restaurant. He not only told everybody what was going on, but then he had that cleaning company on camera and he did a whole big thing with it. So it's like, talk about wide open about who he is, what he stands for, and the opportunity came from the cleaning company, coming to do it. It was kind of wonderful, to share. So I ultimately love, sharing stories, and everyone, what you're doing with the chamber, with the women group, with the chamber itself, with your business. It's so important for folks not to know that, to think that they're alone, to share different ideas. And when they get involved and you share something out, everybody's going to say, oh, yeah, we've been there. You're not alone. So it's great to, to give and take, all around and sharing the personal experiences, the business experiences when it goes. Makes everybody stronger. I'm sure you make that chamber stronger too.
Absolutely. To me, it's all about providing access and visibility for folks and the opportunity for them to feel supported and also to grow.
Yep, that's it. So, Susan, if you'd like to make any additional comment about the chamber, about the women group, about your business, about how we all can move together, we all can improve what we're doing by opening up different lines of communications, any place, I leave the stage to you, the digital stage.
And thank you, Brian. I'd like to say that I encourage people to come to the chamber, to come to our virtual events, and when we do get back to in person, to check us out as well. We're at melvillechamber.org. If you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can reach me at Susan, Susan, at Ganz strategicsolutions.com. That's Ganz, Ganz, strategicsolutions.com. And our women's group committee, once you become a member, you're eligible to be part of the committee, and we welcome you. We chit chat in the beginning. We have that space for really collaborating, and then we get down to the agenda of what we need to do and getting these events together. But we can't do these programs without people, without the support of the community. So we really invite the community to get involved and also to provide ideas for what it is that you want to see. This is your chamber. What do you want from the chamber?
That's it. That's it. That's it. It's keeping that open line of communication all around. So it's terrific. Hey, Susan, I do look forward to actually seeing you face to face in the not too distant future. Obviously, the digital world always open. And thank you so much for joining us here this morning and being a part of the Melville Chamber and all it is that you do for our community.
You're quite welcome. It is my pleasure.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
The idea of a chamber of commerce may be different than perhaps what you think. There are some chambers very much on the focus on that local level, others focused a bit more on the business level. The Melville Chamber focused a little bit more on that wider geographical area, a little bit more on the business level, but that feeling of being part of a community, boy, oh boy, everybody that we've spoken to, it just seems like it just flows out. The mentoring, the coaching, how to do this, how to get involved with that. Such an important part of everything that we do. So that you never should feel alone factor. We could say that frequently when it comes to some of the medical situations that are there, and nobody should feel alone. But the same thing holds true in the business world too. We've all been through different challenges. We've all seen different aspects of it. Some different, some than others. Brick and mortar have got different issues than those that are just purely on the service side of things. Some have got employees, some don't have employees to get different issues there. How do you know who to speak to? Well, just ask. Just ask. I'll have that communication with somebody that could guide you in the right direction, and then you'll wind up in the right place. Incredibly important. Incredibly important to not only your own success, but the success of others. Because what happens then is that you then get to share your growth story with others. You then get that chance to inspire other people. You get that chance to be the motivator, to be that enthusiastic person when somebody else is going through some sort of something someplace. Boy, and we've met so many of those folks over at the Melville Chamber, and look forward to meeting more of them also, including when they get back to the face-to-face meetings, but also those committee meetings that take place on a very frequent basis. So you definitely want to go to the Melville Chamber website to see what's up on their schedule, speak to Ted, Tyler, and a few of the others about perhaps even becoming a member of the Melville Chamber. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're here every weekday morning And for about a half an hour or so, we get a chance to meet somebody else new, somebody else that perhaps you can speak to help your business grow and help with your own PR, marketing, or networking efforts. And when you got that all together, and when you are ready, and I hope you're ready immediately, you will speak well, speak often, and live inspired.